It happened one summer, not long ago. It was in a village probably a lot like yours, a lot like the village where I was born. In fact, it was good to be back in the bush again, where people lived close to nature, a long way from the noise and traffic of the city. But still, there was a serious problem here. I just hoped I'd be able to help. Mary is the village health aide and an old friend. She had told me about the children in her letter, about how so many were getting sick. She told me how the babies and youngsters were having trouble with diarrhea and upset stomach, illnesses that had scary-sounding names like Heliobacter pylori, Shingles, and Salmonellosis. Other symptoms included fever, nausea, vomiting, and stomach pains. Very, very serious things. One child was even being tested for hepatitis a serious sickness you can get when exposed to sewage. As we walked, Mary told me about the village. The people lived a subsistence lifestyle, hunting, fishing. Money was very tight. No running water was piped to the homes. And then she told me the most important thing. It was a honey bucket village. Mary suspected the diseases that were breaking out among the children were sewage related. Mary thought she knew why the children were getting sick, but she wasn't sure exactly how and what to do about it. Somehow, human waste was contaminating the food or water. Why do we always get the youngest member of the family to empty the honey bucket? This doesn't make sense. I told Mary it was sometimes the little things that caused the biggest trouble. We had both seen how the boy had struggled with the bucket. We could see stains on his boots and his pants where some of the contents of the bucket had spilled. And chances are when you get honey bucket contents on you, it's going to get in you. And if it gets in you, you're going to get sick, or you're going to infect anybody who comes in contact with you. It's not his fault. He just doesn't understand that he's carrying a time bomb back into his house. Mary said she knew the family well, and it was true. The youngest children were among those who had been seriously ill. It was not hard to imagine what would happen next. It's a scene we both seen played out again and again in our villages. The child comes home from the sewage lagoon. He walks into the house wearing the same shoes or boots he wore to empty the honey bucket and washes his hand for about 10 seconds. Everywhere he walks, everything he touches carries a contamination. Carries a very real possibility that someone in the family is going to get very, very sick.
Come in for dinner.
The next day, Mary took me to meet the family. After we had visited for a while, I asked if we could conduct an experiment.
Okay.
Yesterday, when you went to the sewage lagoon, you accidentally smelled some stuff on your clothes. And I noticed you slipped a little at the edge of the lagoon and got more stuff on your shoes. Come here, I want to show you something. Now let's pretend this stuff represents that stuff. You just came back from the lagoon. So go on out and come back in and do the same thing you did yesterday, and we'll see what happens.
Then you played with your sister.
Now let's pretend you're all called to supper.
Okay, coming for dinner. Cheers.
Okay, with this black light, we get a good idea of what happens when you bring even the smallest trace of honey bucket contents into the home. What's the first thing you touch? The doorknob. And everywhere you step, everything you touch becomes contaminated. When you get it on you, it's gonna get in you. If it gets in you, you're gonna get sick. Or somebody around you is going to get sick. I told them that the honey bucket is an important tool, and like all tools, if you don't use it properly, it can hurt you. Big dangers, huh?
Now, what you show us?
Mary asked that I start at the beginning and explain how to use the honey bucket properly. Actually, the area around the honey bucket was pretty good. It was located a good distance from the kitchen. The seat bench was a couple inches above the bucket. The bucket was secured beneath the seat so it couldn't be accidentally knocked over. The seat had a urine guard. The honey bucket closet had a door for privacy and to help cut down on bad smells. Mary suggested the use of Pine Sol or Lysol to help get rid of smells. The honey bucket itself was a standard 5-gallon plastic bucket. It should be marked so that it can never be mistaken for a bucket used to haul fresh water. This family wasn't using the plastic liner in their honey bucket, one of the main reasons why the boy ended up with human waste on his clothes and his shoes. In every instance, a plastic liner makes emptying the honey bucket safer and easier. I explained how the bucket should never be filled higher than the first line, and nothing other than human waste, toilet paper, and Lysol should be placed in the bucket. And when filled, the plastic bag should be tied closed. Also, you should always wear rubber gloves when tying the bag closed. Another important thing, in winter, make sure that the outside of the bag remains dry. If there's moisture between the bag and the bucket, it will freeze on the way to the lagoon, and it would really be hard to remove the bag from the bucket. I explained how the person who empties the honey bucket should be a strong, able-bodied person, not a child or an elder, no matter how careful or responsible that child or elder might be. I explained that in an ideal situation, a person should wear gloves, boots, and a raincoat, and that these garments would be reserved for this purpose and no other. Be careful walking down the steps, especially in winter when the steps might be icy. This is where a lot of spills happen. I really believe you should use a plastic bag in the bucket. But if you don't use a bag, be sure the lid is on tight. Lids are hard to get on and off, especially when they freeze in the winter. A lot of spill happens getting the lid up. Oops. Boy, lucky you had a bag in there. I don't have to tell you to walk slowly and carefully down this path or boardwalk. Not using a liner greatly increases the chance of a spill. If it should happen, you simply have to clean it up. There's no choice. It's the law. And more important, it's the health of the community. Here's what you do. If the spill is on the ground, you need to shovel as much of the waste back into the bucket. Then you need to shovel up the contaminated soil and put it in the honey bucket too. In another clean bucket, mix a half cup of bleach to 5 gallons of water to pour over the entire area of the spill. If it's a large spill, you may need to mix another 5 gallons. Then with your shovel, cover the entire area with about 4 inches of uncontaminated soil. If the spill is on the boardwalk, you clean it up much the same way. Again, you may need more than 5 gallons of the mixed bleach solution to cover the whole area. If the spill is in puddled water, treat the area with the bleach solution. In a creek, river, or lake, the bleach solution can kill fish, so don't use it there. In those situations, there's not much you can do but report it to the health aide. If you have a spill in the winter, it can be a real nightmare. It won't take but a minute for the waste to freeze solid. So you have to shovel or chip it up and then take it to the sewage lagoon. Sometimes the spill freezes so solid you have to find somebody with a backhoe or front end loader to clean it up. The point is, whether winter or summer, everyone is responsible for preventing or cleaning up their own spills. Once you get to the sewage lagoon or the honey bucket station, it's just a matter of being very careful. Take the plastic bag out of the bucket and carefully lower it into the hopper or the lagoon. Be extremely careful. Don't lose your footing. It can be slippery, especially in winter. And don't let the wastewater in the lagoon splash back on you. If you don't use a plastic liner, try to get all the waste out of the bucket. But I would encourage everyone to use a plastic liner. Another thing, only dump your honey bucket in the hopper or lagoon, never in the solid waste dump. People drive their four-wheelers into the dump, then drive through town, and they could be spreading contamination wherever they go. All your gear should be stored in a special area. This area should be away from food and family activities, or any place where children play. Outside shoes or boots should not be worn in the house. A few other hints for around the house. Never store full honey buckets outside, especially in winter. If they freeze, they can burst. And honey buckets left stored until spring can create a terrible mess. Take your honey bucket to the sewage lagoon every time it gets full. And it goes without saying, Never dump a honey bucket in your yard. The only safe place to dump a honey bucket is in the hopper or lagoon. Now here's something few people realize. Hand washing is the #1 way to prevent disease. But it takes more than a 10-second splash. To get rid of any traces of human waste, you have to scrub your hands in clean, uncontaminated water for at least half a minute. After every wash, empty the hand washing basin and use clean water again the next time. But to be really clean and germ-free, I recommend you use hand wipes. And when you finish, drop them into the honey bucket. Another good way to wash your hands without using a lot of water is to use a hand sanitizer that will kill most of the germs. I often find that people simply don't know how serious, how dangerous misusing a honey bucket can be, how important it is to take responsibility for using it correctly. It's so much a part of daily routine that you don't even think about it much.
Thanks for having us here.
But like anything that can be dangerous,
Thank you. It wasn't.
it can hurt the health of the family. It takes serious thought, concentration, focus. I think by the time we left that family, they saw the honey bucket in an entirely different light. And I have a feeling there won't be as many sick people in that house in the years to come. By the time I left the village, Mary had organized a community campaign to convince families to accept the responsibility for preventing spills. First, by making sure that only strong-bodied adults carry and empty the honey bucket. Second, by accepting the responsibility to clean up spills should they accidentally occur. And third, by taking the necessary precaution to prevent cross-contamination, like regular and thorough hand washing and never bringing a honey bucket to the fresh water point. I suggested she make a video to help communicate this important message.
Just there.
I don't know if she did. I hope so.